Calling the meeting to order Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019 at 7:30 p.m. of the Maine Township Board. If everybody could rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Lamas, could you call the roll?
Assessor More Than Pride, Highway Commissioner Kazmierczak, here. Clerk Lamas here. Supervisor Morass.
Here.
Trustee Jones.
Here.
Trustee McKenzie.
Here.
Trustee Carabota. Here. Trustee Sweet.
Here. And our attorney, Kurt Asprey, is also here. Okay, so we're going to switch this order a little bit because the honor flight people, probably due to the weather, have not made it yet. So at this time, it is my distinct honor to do a presentation of a plaque to the Jewel Food Store in Park Ridge at Bussey and Greenwood. And this Jewel, who is represented by Betty, we had the distinct honor of visiting on last Wednesday to meet all the employees and who did this incredible effort after we had put out sort of an all-call on the food pantry. They did this incredible effort, and we wrote up a press release that is either out or will be out, and raised $25,000 of donated dinners to Maine Township. Did I have that number right?
That store raised 75.
Right, but our portion.
We got 25.
Right. So they actually raised 75 for 3 different pantries, and we got $25,000 of dinners, holiday dinners. So this was an awesome. And I don't know, how many people read the Park Ridge Concerned Homeowners blog, but there was an entire thread devoted, that the employees did about how thrilled they were to be part of this. So every customer who checked out, they ranked, well, you're going to tell me, so as to what you did. Let me read the plaque first for you, and then I want you and your wife, Ida, to come on up for a picture. What are you doing? He's with Joby. Ah, awesome. Okay. And alright, so Maine Township recognizes the Jewel Osco at 481 Bussey Highway, Park Ridge, for their donations to the food pantry. We thank you for your generosity. Thank you. So can you just tell the board exactly like when people would come up to the checkout counter?
Sure.
Okay.
So people would come up, do their regular grocery shopping, and our team, our checkers, who are relentless but very nice, they make sure they ask every customer for a donation. We have signs posted that $50 feeds a family of 6. It's a round number. It's really more than 50, but it's a round number and it works. We set a goal this year on December 14th as we were approaching the final day of collections, which is Christmas Eve. We had a shot at 75,000, and we were tracking that because we were 10 ahead of last year, and we pushed it, and it was Christmas Eve around 2 o'clock when we hit that number.
Wow.
And I got to tell you, I choked up trying to make that final announcement that we did it. It's a blessing to be able to help so many families in need, through and getting paid through my work, through Jewel Osco. So.
Well, you guys were incredible. These employees, everybody was so into this. And then a bell rings, right?
Actually, they just yell, gobble, gobble, over here, or jingle, jingle after the Thanksgiving time frame. So that's what they do, is they just gobble, gobble, jingle, jingle. And it creates excitement in the store. People are asking, what's that all about?
I was there, I heard it.
And did you donate?
No, I didn't.
I do have a box in the car, by the way. Sorry.
Every time someone would donate $50, which is the target number, we would make an announcement, so-and-so just donated $50 at whatever register. That's our fourth one of the day, fifth one, etc. And it works. So We opened.
Also, you were the highest producing in the entire state, right?
Last year, we raised 67. We were #1 store out of the division, which is 187 stores in Jowasco. We later found out we were #1 nationwide.
Wow.
3,300 stores, and we were #1. This year, we haven't got those results yet on the nationwide tally. I reached out today in an email and hoping we would have that information for you tonight.
Well, we made you nationwide.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
Can you guys all come up for a picture? And then, yes, go on. Including Ida.
You're tall guy. Go with me, everybody.
Now, Alex has to do all this.
Alex is good at this, though.
When you're tall, they always stick you in the back.
Pretty much, right? That's what they make them do.
This one's under the other.
I'm Wally.
So you're supposed to turn one head.
Okay, so we just take a few photos, we'll take 3 tonight, and from the waist up, right?
Yes, I got
Where are my shoes?
Alright. 1, 2, 3, and then, oh, 2.
Down.
Yeah, that's the one we're doing. Good. Thank you. Okay, that's it. And then last one. Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you. No, I really.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh,
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Great job. I want this so nice to meet you.
He makes my holidays a lot easier.
Well, you can, it's just.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I know what
I'm
Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Do you want me to move into the end?
Yeah, at this point, and then if they don't show, like I said, we're just gonna bring the check.
Okay, so we're gonna hold, right, we're not gonna put it on the agenda for the 4th month, and so we're just gonna skip it for right now. Otherwise, we will be
We
mailing.
confirmed as of last week, but maybe with the weather, or, you know, it's.
But we do love honor flights, so one way or the other, they will be getting our check. All right, so now, moving right along, I'm going to ask for a motion for approval of the minutes of the December 18th, 2018 special board meeting.
Motion for approval of the minutes of the December 18, 2018 board meeting.
And is there a second? Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Changes, deletions, any? Hearing none. Is it one page?
Is this supposed to be one?
One page.
It's one, I have a second one for the other. I just wanted to separate. Okay, okay, on page 1, after agenda item of public participation, I want to strike the sentence, Joe Egan, Park Ridge resident, and Donna Adam, Des Plaines resident, gave their comments and suggestions regarding Maine Township and Highway Department tax levies. Substitute that with Joe Egan, Park Ridge resident, spoke about Maine Township's excess funds and accumulation in reserves, expressing the concern that Maine Township has been irresponsible in overtaxing and recommended to cut the levy in half with an abatement. Donna Adam, Des Plaines resident, echoed Joe Egan's comments and expressed her interest in a larger decrease in the levy with an abatement to get the fund balances down. On page 2, after Trustee Sweeney stated that she requested to be on the agenda a motion and a vote for several levy reductions that were greater than 5%, add, Trustee Sweeney asked Supervisor Moraes to allow for a vote for the deeper levy cuts of 30% of general assistance and 20% on the town fund and road and bridge fund first, before considering to vote only a 5% reduction. Trustee Carabota reiterated the need to vote on Trustee Sweeney's deeper levy cut motions first. Both of their requests were denied. Next, strike. She questioned if the Open Meetings Act was violated by not saying the agenda items will be voting on tax levies. Instead, substitute and start with a new paragraph. Trustee Sweeney asked Attorney Asperuth if there was any concern about violating the Open Meetings Act because there was no vote or action mentioned in the agenda. Attorney Asperuth stated that it is not necessary to mention any action, but it is the subject in the agenda that describes what might be voted on. On page 3, after Trustee Sweeney's no vote on the road levy, strike the sentence that says Trustee Sweeney added that the tax levy ordinance is more than adopting the tax levy ordinance when she's signing her name to agree on the necessary expenses. That is the reason she voted no. I would like to substitute that with Trustee Sweeney voted no and added, it is signing my name to something, an ordinance, that says that this is required in order to meet and defray all necessary expenses and liabilities, and I don't believe that to be true.
I second it.
So, we've already had many discussions and agreements between this board and Clerk Giulianis. And this was the subject of almost an hour of discussion at the November, I think it was, board meeting, that with respect to resident comments, we would literally summarize that they spoke, see video. That was Trustee McKenzie's compromise with this, and I think that should hold true for your page 1 items. For page 2, similarly, you had all agreed with Clerk Giulianis that the minutes are to be shorter and to be action as to what occurred, not a specific why not, and again, can also say see video with respect to the amendments on page 2. On page 3, I don't have any problem with your amendment. Clerk Giulianis, is that your understanding?
It was my understanding, and the essence of moving things along, I can have this added in. It's up to you guys.
May I be
Well, since
recognized?
we're making changes, then on the first page, under discussion and clarifications regarding prices and performance of Displays office equipment, then I would like the conversation that I had with Trustee Carabota, asking him why he was choosing the more expensive option of the bids that we had. In fact, it was the most expensive option. And so as long as we're going to be using verbatim minutes instead of what we've all agreed upon, month after month after month, using video timelines and not to do verbatim minutes, then I think we should add that too.
If I may be recognized, Peter, thank you, Peter, for your comment that you'll add these. Again, I seconded them, and I would also join.
Well, he didn't agree. Do we vote on it?
If we voted yes on it. Also, I would join in with Trustee Jones to include, as long as verbatim and accurate, to include in the explanation that I provided, I believe 3 times, as to why the proposal that I suggested that the board eventually approved was necessary and best for the township, not looking to price tag only. So I would say, fine, let's add that in and let's pass this.
Okay, let's call the question.
I'm not finished. I've asked to be recognized. So
Trustee Sweeney.
okay. In regards to the page 1 comments that you made about summary comments or see video, I just attended a Township Officials of Cook County Trustees meeting this past week, and Jerry Crabtree, who is the director, I'm not sure, vice president, he had said specifically that when it comes to residents' comments, the purpose of the Open Meetings Act and minutes is to reflect the gist of what their statements were. So I think to say that they spoke and see video ignores the problem that they were trying to highlight, which is that we have excessive funds in our reserves and we should have the right to abate. And so to be silent on something that our residents have taken the time out of their schedule to come in, speak up, and address us, and not give anybody that's reading the meeting minutes a reflection of what they said in a sentence or two is, I think, wrong. And I only used one sentence for each of these residents, and I think it accurately depicts what they said.
But that's the whole purpose when we went through all of the work we did in videotaping the meeting. So we are completely in compliance with what Jerry Crabtree, but more importantly with what our attorney advised. So
I don't agree, and
I know you don't.
I guess, I mean, he specifically said, I said, we just, to add one sentence, I mean, it's very dismissive to me of what they are taking time out of their schedule to come and speak up at this podium, to not reflect what it is that they're saying, that they're sharing with us. So I can't imagine why this wouldn't be more, transparent and open, just comment on one sentence.
That's why there's a time.
But someday, sometime, we might, if somebody comes back and only looks at the minutes and doesn't take the time to access the tape or in time, the only thing that holds is the minutes, which are actually supposed to be an accurate reflection.
So we're just going back
on page
Trustee McKenzie.
Okay, then I move to, to have a vote on each page. And if I have a second.
I'm sorry, we're in the middle of this one. Can we hear from?
Well, I hadn't finished my page 2, your comments. Because I took the time to amend these, I would appreciate if I could finish. If we're not, that's page 1. Your comment on page 2 would be dismissive of when you're reading this, and you haven't looked at the video, which not everybody will do, I think it's important to understand that there was a vote of a deeper cut of 30% that was not allowed to be voted on first, which was what the request was.
Susan, I made a motion. Claire seconded the motion. There were comments, discussions, and we voted on that motion. That's what happened.
But when I had said,
goes first.
Okay, when I had said, I put in a request to you on November 30th, which was a full month before, saying I want this as an agenda item specifically.
The levy is the agenda item.
That was not. It was a 5% levy out of the gate. That's all you. I'm sorry, use that terminology, but I apologize. I apologize. That was the only vote we were allowed to take. So I want it on record. I mean, that's really the
I think
only
it is
point.
on record.
No. What's on record is what you put. Trustee Sweeney stated that she requested to be as agenda with a motion and a vote for several levy reductions that were greater than 5%. So the point is not only was I, on record as we put that in the board packet, that was great, but I was denied the vote. It's very simple. I was, as was Trustee Carabota.
Okay. Anything else?
On page, well, we didn't have a problem with page 3, so. Did you have a problem with the second? The attorney, that was just clarification because it wasn't.
You talking about page 3?
No, page 2, the second part about our attorney. That sentence was awkward and I just substituted it, so that shouldn't be a problem, I wouldn't think.
I think it was fine the first time. It doesn't really float any boat one way or the other. I think to be consistent, it should just be what BH did. But Trustee, are you finished?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie.
I just want to say that we did talk about the fact that we were very transparent with doing videos, and I think that's great. Everybody should watch what they want to watch. And we had agreed that the minutes were going to be summary minutes like
Right.
they're supposed to be.
Right.
And that's what our
I agree.
book says.
Right.
It's not supposed to be verbatim, it's not
Right.
supposed to say all of the things that it even says now, but
Right.
okay.
Do
I
you
have a
view
problem
that
with-
as being verbatim?
Pretty much. I mean, and I think that it characterizes statements and positions, and I think it's very positional. Now, if that's what we're gonna do, we're going backwards, because then all of us are going to want to put our spin on the minutes. And I think that's a waste of time. But you know what? I can do that too. And I'm fine with that. That's what we all want to do. Fine. But that's really not the job of minutes. And now we have full transparency with the video. And I mean, we go to the trouble of putting down where in the video you can go and find what you're really looking for. And I don't think a person who's really interested in what happened that night is going to just look at these minutes and not go to the video.
Exactly.
But if you really want this, fine. But just know that we are going backwards. And not only that, from now on, I am going to be doing this. And I think it's a waste of time. But if that's what you all want, fine. We're not going to get any real business done here. And what we really should be doing is focusing on what's best for our township and how to spend our money, how to budget, and how to audit, instead of worrying about damn minutes. But fine, we'll worry about the minutes.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying with verbatim. To add one sentence
All right,
about
so I'm
what
gonna call
our
the
residents are
question.
saying, I don't think is verbatim. So I don't
I
want
have
to take
no
a step
problem
back.
with any
I believe we need to be in
changes,
summary, but I also think that it's
Okay,
already
Susan.
been, you know, I already feel like that there's been a slant to this, which is why I'm trying to clarify, so I have taken the time.
The issues.
I take offense to the fact that you feel there's a
Right.
slant, and we do our very best to keep it as impartial as possible.
I literally had nothing. All right, I'm gonna call this question, Clerk Jalamas called.
What question is that?
This amendment, that Susan wants, and seconded by Trustee Carroll.
Yes.
Just for the record, does that include the amendment by Trustee Jones as well? Just so that we know.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be fine, that would
Yeah.
be fine, let's stipulate.
Just to make sure everybody
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah.
Supervisor Moran?
No.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's not what I'm fighting about. But from now on, I am going to put my slant on the minutes too. I mean, that's what we're gonna all do, I guess.
All right. Approval of the minutes on the December 27th, 2018 building.
Motion to approve the minutes for the December 27th bill pay, waive the reading.
Second.
After a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none.
Yes.
Trustee, for bill pay?
No.
Oh,
Okay. Clerk Jalamas, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm going to make a motion for approval. I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 27th, 2018 board meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion or changes?
Yes. Then, on page 4, I move to amend, after discussion on the salary study, add, discussion ensued after Trustee Sweeney and Trustee Carabota expressed concern about the scope of the salary study, as it was only limited to comparing Maine Township to other townships. Trustee McKenzie and Supervisor Marask ensured that the study scope would not be limited and could include consideration of the data that Trustee Sweeney presented, as well as other comparisons in the private sector positions. Strike, Supervisor Marask stated that by some board members' request, Attorney Krafthofer provided the board with a revised tax abatement ordinance review. Substitute, Supervisor Marask stated that per Trustee Sweeney's request, Attorney Krafthofer provided a tax abatement ordinance for review. Add, after discussion, And I have one sentence that I feel is pertinent for several people that had spoken about this whole lengthy discussion. Attorney Kurt Asquith recommended that if we are to do an abatement, it should be before the first installment in January or February, as the first installment is probably in March. He stated that it might be difficult to abate once they actually extend a portion of the levy. Trustee McKenzie suggested that we move up our budgeting by doing an estimated budget as early as possible to get a better feel for our needs. Trustee Sweeney expressed her concern about the need to abate because our levy cut was not enough to reduce our reserves. She reminded that we have enough in reserves to fund the GA budget and that we are in violation of the township statute pertaining to excess funds. She said that we have been overtaxing and referenced residents that have spoken up on this issue. Supervisor Morass disagreed and said that our attorneys had told her that we are within the law.
Oh, come on, this is getting ridiculous. This is a summer.
Trustee Carabota emphasized the importance of stopping the money from being taken from the taxpayer before the levy is extended. And page 5, there's an incorrect vote that was registered. It should say strike the no and substitute, excuse me, strike the yes, and that should say strike the yes vote and put no. So please reverse what I wrote there.
Second.
Okay, so these are not accurate. Trustee McKenzie and with respect to paragraph 1, Trustee McKenzie and Supervisor Morass discussed that the study scope would be limited to whatever the expert said, and would be, but that's what we were hiring an expert for. And we absolutely said if the expert wanted, it could include consideration of the data that you presented, as well as other comparisons in the private sector positions. But the point was that we wanted to rely on an expert. Trustee McKenzie, if that's your recollection, that is mine. I did just watch the tape.
I did too last time.
Okay. Also, I don't have any problem with paragraph 2, except that it was Trustee Sweeney and Carabota's request. But if you want to take Dave out, that's fine.
Having the table wasn't.
Well, it was second.
Okay.
Now, paragraph 3 is just wrong. Attorney Kurt Asquith did not say this. He said it was due April 1st. That's when an abatement ordinance would be due. And so getting this deep in the weeds, this is just wrong.
I disagree that that's wrong. I listened to the tape and he specifically said January and February.
I think it says first installment at the last meeting, because we had to confirm when they needed
But then, I'm sorry, then you were.
Because we had to confirm when they needed the abatement at that point, so we were trying to recommend it
I
by,
think Susie had said April 1st, but it's okay.
at that point.
But the point is, as Pete said, what is the point of this? I'm sorry. So anyways, let me finish. I have no problem, obviously, with registering the correct vote for whatever you voted on. So I disagree with paragraph 4, amendment 2, and...
In answer to your question, what is the point of this? It was just simply to cover, because I don't think you get the gist through the meeting.
Again, it's a video.
As
I'm
to
not
what
going to repeat. Claire
the
said it
discussion
very
was.
eloquently. We're not going backwards in time. This is stupid. I'm sorry. It really is. We spent so much time, effort, and money to research and implement the videotape, and actually saved a lot of money because we do it cheaper than any other township. And if you want to focus on this kind of stuff, I'm not going to argue about it. I'm done with my comments. I'm going to recognize Trustee Jones.
I want to reiterate and support what Trustee McKenzie and Supervisor Morass said. Again, once again, we have gone over and over and over this. We have a policy. The policy is to be transparent with our minutes. They are a summary of actions. That is the purpose of minutes. That's why we have accurate timestamps and we have a video. And for these verbatim minutes, if you want to talk about slanted, they're always slanted in your favor with your friends that you initiate to come with their slants on, on their comments. So it's obvious. You get your friends here to come and say what you want. And then you want to put it in here, verbatim. And if you want to talk about slanting, that's slanting, and it's also dishonest, Susan. So, I mean, let's be transparent, and let's say what it really is, because that's what it really is. And so I suggest that we follow Trustee McKenzie's lead and also Supervisor Morass and stick with the policy that we have discussed over and over and over again. I agree, this is stupid and we are going backwards, and let's stick to the minutes as a summary of actions with accurate timestamps, and anybody who's interested in hearing what you or your friends have to say, they can watch the video.
Trustee McKenzie.
This paragraph, this, what you call it, 4?
Yeah.
4. This is an example of where, when you get too detailed in what happened at a meeting, there is a definite, it is definitely not, it's slanted. It has a spin on it, and you're talking about what I said and what I meant, and this is not what I meant. So if that's what you get, I watched the tape last night too.
Okay.
And I will tell you that
No, she was fine.
I just got this. And now you're asking me to take time out of a meeting where we're trying to get out of here and to revise it under pressure. I don't want to do that.
Well, strike your sentence then.
I don't agree with this whole
I
paragraph.
thought I thought you actually were trying to.
I'm not saying that you were trying to do anything harmful. I'm just saying that this is an example where you, not you personally, but where we would all run into the characterization, the way we view something. So you viewed what I said a certain way, and that's what you depicted here. But that's not what I meant.
I would suggest you strike that then.
But now, I mean, so are we gonna give each other our amendments in advance so that we can all, think about these things and watch the tape over? I don't think that's a good use of
Okay,
time.
my point.
The minutes are supposed to be a summary.
I think we just lack any kind of the gist of what went on in the discussion when we say there's a discussion.
That's why,
So, we do have a video, but I thought one sentence for everybody that spoke for a long time it is slanted. Can I just finish? Yes, I mean, I'm sure maybe people don't like what I said, but the fact is, those were comments that I made. And
okay,
so,
Trustee Gearbone.
I think in looking this over, maybe the middle ground would be obviously, as Supervisor Morask said, the incorrect recording of the vote gets corrected. The paragraph right above that would be stricken from the proposal. Going back to the top paragraph, that was confirmed by our attorney that that's what he did say when it came to time for the abatement. So I would say if we just strike that paragraph that begins, Attorney Kurt Askew, I'm suggesting, recommended that if that would make it comfortable, then maybe we can vote as a board together and allow.
Okay, you want to strike that and then keep paragraph 1 about the salary study?
Right.
And
It's not accurate.
well, that's not accurate, because me and Claire said we wanted to leave it up to the expert. I know that's what we said.
I think
Again, this is a characterization of
Right.
what we said, and it's your characterization, it's your
Correct.
interpretation.
And it will be subject to a change from you, if you want to change it.
the comment about, because I'm on this, but on that first paragraph, I do recall myself bringing up several times that and it's on the tape, that if the study is limited to one governmental body, we're comparing to other governmental bodies, and I did not find that useful and necessary. And when that limitation was removed, and that anything would be allowed, and then we'd also bring in the fact of the private sector comparisons, et cetera, then that made it useful. And I said that was a good middle ground to be spending the money to.
That's what you said.
Correct.
Right, but that's not what Trustee McKenzie and I said.
There was an agreement.
But that's the point, and we're gonna argue about
Right,
what
so
we
we're gonna
said
sit here and
in the
waste
video.
all
I think
these
this is
people's
important
time.
And then before you voted, you
Trustee
didn't even know
Kenzie,
what you were voting on.
I do recall you saying, like, we could consider we can consider all this
absolutely
data,
did.
right? Okay, so can we revise this to
No,
your?
I think we should just look at this is going, look, let's put it to a vote. I mean,
Okay,
All right, I am calling the question.
wait, well, I have one
No,
more comment.
there's really no need.
I have one more comment I'd like to comment. The reason why I put this in, and what drew me to put this in, was
I know.
because the motion itself said we were only comparing to other townships. So there wasn't an
No, it
amendment.
didn't.
No, it didn't.
If you, well, read the motion.
And then before we voted, you
So I'm calling the question
Read
for
the
Jill
motion.
Ennis, can you call them up?
Supervisor Moran.
No.
Trustee Jones.
No.
Trustee McKenzie.
no.
Trustee Carabota.
I would say yes with regards to the change of the vote to be properly recorded. I think the board saying no to that is ludicrous. Also, I think the other paragraphs are correct and accurate, except for the sake of what the discussion was had here, the paragraph right above the vote that says Attorney Kirk Askew would be stricken.
Just vote no, I mean, do
Stricken.
your vote.
So I would say that we should amend to allow for that and go in that direction.
And
Then
can you
you
vote? No,
vote
I'm
separate.
sorry, we're gonna do that separately. Can you
A
please
motion
vote?
to amend. You can
No,
make a
we are
motion.
voting.
Roll call.
You have to finish the roll call.
My vote then would be yes.
Trustee Sweet.
Yes.
Okay, so, motion failed on these amendments. Now, I'm going to
Make a motion.
to pass the minutes with the change in Trustee Sweeney's vote. Do I have a second?
I'm sorry, so what do we?
To change the vote, if she was, her vote was recorded incorrectly.
So now you are making an amendment. You're allowing for an amendment.
After the
Well,
It's
if
an
your
action
vote
item.
was, that's an action item.
This
If
would
your
be
vote,
a new motion.
it's a new motion.
Okay, a new motion.
If your vote was recorded inaccurately, of course this should be reflected accurately. That's an action item, not a spin or
I'm not
a...
saying it is.
Okay, so that's my motion, so we can get through the minutes before 8:15. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. I'm calling the question.
Is that what she voted?
Supervisor Moran.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie.
Yes.
Trustee Carabota.
Again, with the clarification, which this is the motion, where it says incorrect vote is registered for Sweeney, strike, and it says no, that's yes, strike yes, substitute no. That being presented for the board, that particular issue, I would say is a yes.
Yes.
Trustee Sweet.
She said yes.
Okay. So, we are now up to public participation. Do we have any? All right, Dan, want to step in?
Thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. I came here...
So can you tell us your name?
Oh,
We
sure,
know
of
who you
course,
are.
yes. Hello, my name is Dan Gott. I'm a retired engineer, currently residing with my wife, with Rita, in Des Plaines for the past 13 plus years. Making a joint decision to live in the city of destiny, which I call it, was a good move for us. My family has roots here in Des Plaines going back 100 years. I am still carrying on with my family tradition by being involved with family outreach and serving my community to hand out food and other things that, kind of parallels with some of the things that you do here. At present, excessively high property taxes are currently placing a burden on many individuals, families, and especially senior citizens. Looking back, I'm unable to recall property taxes ever being as high as they are today. I'm very concerned about that. I'm very concerned about what we're doing here with these levies. And that's why I'm here today questioning why the Township Board voted in December of 2018 to levy $7,651,000, whatever that amount is, in total for the township. I feel it's irresponsible to levy so much when the township is holding such a massive pot of tax money in reserve. Excuse me if my voice is a little hoarse because I'm just coming back from recovering last year from major surgery, and I came here with great expectations. My words are not slanted, nor are they projected as any kind of confabulations or lies. It's what I read in the newspaper. Call it whatever you want. Real news, fake news, whatever you want to call it. I've heard people here tonight saying that, you know, what we hold in reserve is not breaking any kind of laws. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a citizen. I'm a retired engineer and a pretty darn good one still. But what I'm saying here is that I feel that this money we're holding in reserve excessively, I think this is especially true for the General Assistance Fund that holds an excessive amount, which I feel is over the legal limit. And having an excessive reserve more than 2.5 years, as I understand it, is out of compliance with state law. You can say whatever you want to say. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just telling you what I read in the paper. This is what my friends, my citizens that I talk to every day who live in my building where I live in a condo and all around the neighborhood I populate say the same thing. So, I believe that the Township Code 60, whatever, you know, it's a long number here, ILCS 1-85-65 was put into place, and that this violation that I'm talking about of being over about 2.8 years of general assistance expenditures is in violation of the law. I'm sorry, but that's what I believe from what I read in the paper and from what people tell me. And because the township has enough money in the reserve fund, I say abate that general assistance levy. And my wife and I do not understand why such an excessive amount of money must be held in the bank. And finally, I will say this. Many seniors today, I'm a senior, are living in their homes, facing hard times, some unable to pay their property tax. And I say the time is now right for all Maine Township taxpayers to get a break to lower their property tax bill, inclusive for any amount. I don't care what it is. A journey begins with the first step. Okay? So, and I feel that this should happen, including the ability of the taxpayers to have it their way, just like at McDonald's. Okay? Otherwise, the rally catchphrase during the next election cycle, in my opinion, will be, I voted. I really voted for a politician who will help lower taxes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Anybody else? All right. May I have a motion for approval of the general assistance expenditures?
Motion to approve payroll for pay dates of December 28, 2018 and January 11, 2019, and general assistance checks number 51735 through check number 51787 in the amount of $51,685.15.
Second.
The motion and second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you vote?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Caraboto?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
All right, can I have a motion for approval of the road district expenditures?
I make a motion to approve payroll for pay dates of December 28, 2018 and January 11, 2019, and road and district checks number 20720 through check number 20761 in the amount of $100,007.19.
I'll second it. Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the vote?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Caraboto?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
All right, may I have a motion for approval of the general town fund expenditure?
Sure. Motion to approve payroll for pay dates of December 28, 2018 and January 11th, 2019, and general town fund checks number 5, 6, 487 for check number 56555 in the amount of $319,555.05.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? Hearing none, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay. So, first item of new business is the contract for the front patio paver replacement project. This would be out of the capital fund. Mike Sanan wrote you a memo, and this was by far the lowest price with the fastest service, and this is the third step in the mold remediation that we discussed. So I'm going to make a motion to pass the, to hire Castillo Service Group to do the project that is delineated in the estimate in your board packets for titled Front Patio Paver Replacement Project. Can I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, it is now open to any discussion or questions, and if you need Mike to come in from the hall, Bernie's doing double duty as our hall monitor. Hearing none, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay. And that should be getting done, whether or not we're standing within the next 2 weeks. All right, old business. All right, we have the policy and procedure. This is attorneys Aspert and Carrie Lynn had taken the one we discussed back in August that we had redlined and whatnot and notes on and put it all together into this. This was something that Trustee Sweeney wanted, so did you want to make a motion?
Can we have
I'll
comments?
make a
Well,
motion.
first you have to
Make a motion to approve the policy, the proposed policy entitled Posting Financial and Other Records on our website, which was completed earlier this afternoon, distributed to the board members.
I second with amendments.
Well, you actually have to second, and then we can discuss. Okay, second that motion, and then we can discuss. Because I have some.
Okay.
Okay.
Um,
So are you seconding it, his
Yes.
motion? Okay. Now it's open to discussion. What are your amendments?
On policy D, I would just add the words annual budgets, including amended budgets, just so that both are on there, because sometimes we haven't amended.
Doesn't it somewhere else say not to do that?
I mean, that might be inclusive enough, but,
It was another, it's a, not including the draft. She's saying.
Amended.
On L?
Amended ones.
on resolutions, L, in addition to resolutions, intergovernmental agreements, and what I'd like to add, which is, I thought was on one of our, was ordinances. I think it would be good if we could add a sentence, I'm open to how to phrase it, but something where we actually list all the resolutions, like just in summary format. So,
That's what is L.
you know, the resolutions themselves are online, but then maybe like a one sentence, like resolution to, or an ordinance to, you know, abate or whatever we're doing, just so we have like an index of what it is that we, you know, have on title. Yeah, like a title page, an index page, whatever you want to call it, if we could do that. And my last comment, and then that would apply to resolutions.
Well, resolutions are
intergovernmental-
already, I'm sorry, it would apply to,
Resolutions
resolutions
that
are
are-
already on. Okay, so there's a book of ordinances from the code enforcement, that's where the animal, which I've got different kinds of ordinance, right?
I didn't see it in the, like, under the financials.
Because it's not under financials, it's under government. It's,
Okay,
they're
government.
laws, they're ordinances that we pass the code enforcement that
Right.
government are unincorporated.
Okay, maybe that's been updated, because I went to look for it before.
Is that-
Okay. And it used to be in our, before we had that change in our website, that we could actually put a keyword in for an ordinance and find it, but I guess we can't.
Oh, I do that, you can do that. Rich, can't you do that? But it, okay, sorry, I'm false.
We're talking about.
No, John was gonna add some ability to search PDFs. When the website launched, it didn't have the ability to search PDFs. I can follow up with him to see if.
Oh, yeah, because we moved everything to a PDF format. Okay, so.
Okay, my last change is
Thank you.
on number 3. If we could just end it after PDF format.
Well, this was actually one of the notes Carrie Lynn had on the draft and on the red line. So, because this will cost money.
Well, when we amended our budget, almost 700,000 between May and August, one of the things was to address the website that was commented. So I
That
don't
was a
know why
different-
these, you know, we started doing these
There was two different
policy
things.
changes a year ago, so
Right.
to say that we now have to fund or there's going to be an excess cost to this, if we can just
Sure.
add these things over, provided the board funds the cost of such conversion and
Because you're
storage.
putting more PDFs, we have to have a contract, so our contract right now allows 30 PDFs. So obviously I have to go back to the governmental, I can't remember the name of our contractor on this, and just obviously sign up for a higher amount. And then the work, the actual work of doing it, which is either going to go to John or to Rich, I mean,
Okay.
that's totally
We
separate
increased our
from
budget
the
almost
website
700,000
stuff.
between May and 3 months
That's
later.
totally different.
And having some, there was a comment there about this technology and all the things you want, Susan, on the website.
Yeah,
Like, that
which
was
is
thrown
there.
in there. And so I guess I'm just really confused as to how we have to now.
Because this
hire
wasn't
somebody.
passed yet. That is part of the problem with this, is, that's why we changed the language, remember, in the discussions?
No.
It had been, we wanted it immediately, and we changed that to as soon as practicable. There was about an hour-long discussion. about
You're
that.
suggesting we have to hire a contractor to do,
No,
What?
okay, we have a contract that we get a certain amount of space on PDFs, and we can easily get more. And then Rich will take the documents and convert them to PDF. It's not a long involved thing, I'm just saying it will need to change. So that was Carrie Lynn's note in the original, on your red line. I mean, you took my original copy. I can print it out for you, but it's definitely.
I just recall, because this was a board committee, and when trustee Mackenzie and Carabota and I
Yeah, we're
all
way
discussed
beyond.
this, that line was not
I know,
in
it
it.
was,
So we have to
we're way
hire somebody
beyond
else.
this. This is, remember, you wanted Carrie Lynn to redraft with all the changes that had been made after the hour-and-a-half discussion, which I do believe was on.
I guess I'll just chime in just real quick with the reasoning behind this was that we just didn't want the board to be in violation of its own
Right.
policy if the funds weren't there to convert these into searchable format, since it can be expensive. So it was just trying to make sure there was leeway in case the funds weren't there to fund that cost.
Okay. So it's not to say that all the things above are going to not be done unless we fund it. I mean, everything should be covered other than turning it into a PDF format or search display, right? For searchable display. That's what's a separate issue.
Correct.
I mean, most of these things would be not even needed to be searched when we have these displayed the way they're itemized here. A PDF search display is something separate if we wanted it. That's what you're saying.
To convert PDFs into searchable format can be expensive. So in order to ensure the board's not going to violate its own policies right away, we just tried to build some leeway until there was funds available to fund that conversion, because it can be expensive.
If anything.
Trustee Herman.
That very good points. That paragraph 3 currently reads that the board authorizes and directs the items above displayed on the website be displayed in a searchable PDF format, comma, provided the board funds the cost of such conversion and storage. What does that exactly mean? I would suggest that we make a period after PDF format, and then a new paragraph would then address council's concerns, where he said the board is to review, approve, and fund the costs related to any such conversion and storage.
That's fine. It literally says the same thing.
Right, but if we make it a separate paragraph. Because then
It's a separate sentence.
Some sentence in paragraph, so we can paragraph 4.
I think that's, I'm sorry.
Trustee McKenzie.
I think it's different because now you're saying we have to do that.
Right.
Versus
Well, what this is,
provided.
Yes, that's a
Right.
good point.
Right.
I would say strike the whole thing. If we choose to do it, we do it separately. Just strike number
But
3.
I don't think you're listening to the attorney's concern.
No, I think if it's stricken in its entirety, then I think that's okay as well. 'Cause you're not
Well,
buying it.
yeah, but-
Yeah.
okay, listen, I would,
You mean no searchable?
Well, I
You
guess
can
we
add
have
it
to figure out what do we want to have.
I would say the
It would be-
paragraph 3 only says that it doesn't
It
go over.
authorizes.
Yeah.
And directs.
It is to be displayed in
I
searchable
mean,
PDF
as it
format.
reads now.
See, if we're listing them, we don't necessarily have to make it searchable, I guess, is what, so maybe we could just separately always add or discuss this later. It's not like any of these things are set in stone anyway, we can modify or amend. But if we want to do something with PDFs, if what you're saying, there's so much storage, we could go back and
Well, with new,
do that.
with new documents, is it costly to just, to save them as searchable PDFs versus not searchable?
Might be cheaper for new documents, I'm not sure. With the
Oh, it doesn't get cheaper than the conversion, but it's still going
But
to be
maybe
an
we could,
additional cost.
leave it in knowing that we're gonna do searchable from here on out and talk about like as we, as people have a need or express a desire.
Claire, I actually like your idea of authorizes instead of directs.
Just take out your.
Yeah, that solves the entire thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's not violating if it doesn't happen before we fund it,
Yeah.
right?
That would be
Yeah.
fine. That would be fine.
Kurt, that means,
It just.
Yeah, we just didn't want the board to immediately be in a violation.
Which
of
we
some
would,
policy.
because
Yeah.
there's no way to do that.
So now, who do we need to tell that we want, things in searchable PDF on our website? Is that Rich or is that somebody else?
No, it's gonna be, it'll be Dana and Rich. I mean, not, all at once, but typically it's better that way, because one of us will get it. And so Rich and John, but then Rich and I have to sit down and redo the contract. Review the contract that we have. Because we bought the cheapest contract for, when we developed the website, because at that time we wanted to do some searchable PDFs, we had 30 of them. So if you guys want all of A through M in searchable PDFs, then
We have the cost.
yeah.
So,
So authorizing is a much better language, because then I can bring it to you in a budget, then we'll have costs.
so just for.
Also, I think that could come out of the capital fund and be absorbed that way.
So this says, just for my edification, that these will be displayed on the website no matter what, but if they're going to be displayed in a searchable PDF format, then we have to.
Well, it's
Right.
going to be displayed, but the eventual posting and display, because you're like asking for
Right.
5 years. Ask.
So eventually be displayed.
Claire's compromised, I think 3 board meetings, 10 years for some of this, I'm talking about number 1.
Right.
So, the board meeting agenda, because we don't go back, I mean, like, we
Right.
couldn't do it. So again, we don't want to be in violation, that was, Carrie Lynn discussed this previously.
So it'll be,
And I think Claire's compromise at the time had been, if we did the whole thing going forward, that would be a lot easier. But if you want 5 years past, you're gonna have to let us have as soon as practical.
And
We can't give you a time limit.
paragraph 3 just says that if we then wanted it in searchable PDF format, hey, there's a cost, we're gonna have
Right,
to
right.
pay costs.
Right.
Right.
So, and there's
otherwise
some
it'd be
things
both.
in these things
As soon as
are
practical.
legal.
As soon as practical.
Right, and some things obviously are legally required,
Right.
most of it. You know, you're always gonna have, as I said before, the board meeting agendas, the board packets, the board vote, or the meeting videos. But you're not gonna have board meeting videos from the past 5 years.
This will help with our FOIA requests and all that.
Sure,
Right.
but so right away in paragraph A, I just noticed, I mean, like, there won't be videos for 5 years.
Right, but we'll know that.
I know, but
I would say that was a good idea, I would go along with that.
okay, so, yeah, so if we take out, really,
And
the
direct.
3 changes would be that on paragraph D, you're gonna add and amend the budget. On paragraph L, title page, or resolutions with directory, I guess. How's that? And then you're gonna take out and directs the items above. Now, instead of waiting another month to get this formally typed up, why don't you just scratch it out?
By the way, before you move on, the directories apply to L, M, and N.
No. I'm sorry, L, I don't have an N.
L is, well,
Oh,
N is
L.
what I suggested ordinances, because it's not on there.
No.
Look at the ordinances.
But ordinances are on.
I thought, now I don't see it.
Where?
No, ordinances are already on the website. You went
Okay.
new ordinances.
Yeah. Okay, with directory.
Okay, but that's, okay, I don't know that we're gonna have a directory of ordinance. I'm sort of at a loss on this one. You were about to raise your hand, I see it. Your whole code enforcement is online, right?
No, I didn't raise my hand.
Oh.
Don't drag me
He does
into
not
it.
want to
I mean,
talk.
is this a lot of work to just, like?
Yes!
That would be like a one
It is. Who do you think is gonna be doing this? I just wanna know, who do you think will be making that correct?
So paragraph 3, we take out.
I'm asking. It's going to be me, or it's going to be Dana, or it's going to be Torma. And it's going to at least take half of it. I mean, yes, obviously. To search all ordinances, all resolutions, and make a title page.
And then with the FOIA request, you would say see website. Yes.
Yeah.
That would be,
Yeah, so that's why it's as
So
soon
it's
as
with the directory.
practicable.
Yeah.
Like,
It takes time, then they just go to the directory and they can look it up.
okay, so just to move this along, L is gonna read resolutions, ordinances with directory. How's
Okay.
that?
Okay.
With the understanding and the explicit direction that as
And
soon as
also intergovernmental agreements.
that's already there.
With directory though?
Directory, because I
I
am not.
What
aware-
kind of directory do you need? There's like 3 of them.
I know, but over time, I mean, we're not gonna, there's gonna be more.
No. Do you have a directory?
Well, like when I was looking for.
Why don't you wanna
intergovernmental agreements,
volunteer to do it?
I was looking to see if we had an intergovernmental agreement with the passport office to do passports, because it's not.
And
You know, I couldn't-
I told you a long time ago.
the directory for 3 ordinances
So-
right now would be very short. So I think it would be consistent.
I
3
mean,
ordinances, you need a directory for 3? I mean, 3
I don't know why that
intergovernmental?
would, I mean, it just seems like it's just an organizational thing for us, like any, new people coming in.
So once that, let me ask you
trustees or
this,
FOIAs or
if they
whatever.
get a searchable
Doesn't-
function, if we have a searchable function, they don't do the same thing,
Right.
right? Keyword search.
You know, what happens is that the ordinances will come up with a directory. Right.
Yeah, she's not talking about ordinance.
I mean,
Well,
sorry,
I was also asking about-
intergovernmental agreements will pop up with a directory.
Right.
Right.
Directory will be longer than anyone.
Can't you just, what if there's like 5 intergovernmental agreements or whatever, just list the 5 that there are. think there's not a whole lot we have.
Why can't the search?
Because
I think it'd be easier for someone like me, number one, and number two is it's just great with, I mean, it just makes it so consistent, it's great and easy on the FOIA.
You will remember this come salary study time.
Yes, I will remember this concept.
Lorraine, Dan, and John Amber, you will
Yeah, we
remember.
will remember.
No, I'm actually dead serious.
I know. I can tell.
Because this is absurd. I'm sorry.
I agree.
Oh, you agree it's absurd?
I know, that's absurd, but then we should keep it.
Laura, how many intergovernmental agreements do we have?
3!
Okay, so why is that so hard to list the 3 intergovernmental agreements we have? I don't appreciate it, I guess. That's what I'm saying that I just don't appreciate the amount of.
I think you don't understand what I'm talking about. It's okay, Susan. It's okay. Everybody literally is doing 3 jobs, so we'll do this as soon as practical. Okay, there's one other mistake. Please cross out in paragraph 2, well, there's 2 paragraphs too. Oh, okay. For policy, paragraph 2, please cross out item N. There is no N. Okay? All right, so I added your directories for resolutions, ordinances, and intergovernmental agreements.
No, I think there is.
No, there's no N because we combine
Correct. Thank
resolutions
you.
with
Ordinances?
ordinances.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
With the
but that's why it was on there, because I think there was a copy of the ordinances. Okay, all right.
Yeah, but you need to make the motion to amend.
Make a motion to amend, addressing the proposed policy draft, posting financial and other records on our website to include the following amendments. Paragraph 1, D would say annual budgets and amended budgets. Paragraph 1, L would say resolutions and ordinances with respect to directories. Paragraph 1M would say intergovernmental agreements with directory. Paragraph 2 would delete, when we go to K, L, and would read and M, and delete and N. Also paragraph 3, the board authorizes the words and directs are being, the words and directs are being deleted.
The words and directs that items above, that whole phrase.
Okay, that items above.
Right, so it reads the board authorizes, I'm sorry, you're right, that items above displayed on the website. Okay.
So we're just taking those and directs only, is that the word?
Yeah, and directs is, you're right, sorry.
So and directs only.
Second.
All right, Henry motion, a second. Clerk Talamas, can you call it? Or amended motions?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, so next order of business is the trustee Sweeney and Carabota asked for a tax abatement ordinance, which is in the packet as 2018-4.
No, 19, wow.
Like I said, sorry.
It cannot be 18 anymore.
Right, because we're in the year 19.
Okay, so I can make a motion to adopt the tax ordinance with amendments,
Man.
and I'd like to read the amendments.
Second.
Well, I guess I should read the amendments first. Okay. I had distributed the amendments and as follows, that, and this is as it pertains to an ordinance abating a portion of the tax levy heretofore levied for the year 2018 for township and general assistance purposes of Maine Township, Cook County, Illinois.
Wait, are you going to read the whole thing?
I'm just going to read the first 2 paragraphs, strike the 3rd paragraph, and then add page 2. So I can bring this down. I gotta get that in front of me, the ordinance.
That's cool.
And then for the record, the proposed amendments that are passing down were reviewed by our attorney and given tentative approval.
So this is an ordinance to abate the levy. And on page 1, what the amendment I'm making is, whereas it says, whereas Maine Township has funds arising from other sources, I would add to that, those funds being the reserve money in the bank as of February 28, 2018, totaling $6,840,647 in the town fund and $2,406,206 in the general assistance fund, which may be lawfully used to pay operational expenses, and therefore desires by ordinance to direct the county clerk to abate a portion of said taxes. And then add this paragraph, whereas Township Code 60 ILCS number 185-65 mandates that township funds, excluding the township's capital fund, shall not exceed an amount equal to or greater than 2.5 times the average annual expenditure of the previous 3 fiscal years. Previous 3 fiscal years. And then on page 2, strike and delete the first paragraph, delete the word corporate, and substitute the word town fund.
Again, on the...
You have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry, who is the second?
Second and second. And again, for clarification, the proposed ordinance with the amendments, there's on the typed up version that's before you, there's a paragraph that is the third from the bottom, referencing reserves amount, that is not, that amendment's been withdrawn. So I would second the motion for the ordinance number
We call the vote?
2018-4, 2019, it would be 2019.
Okay, so the amendments are not, we're not following the written thing. We're doing it how Trustee Sweeney said, and then, so we understand the amendments. So now that we have a motion and a second, let's open this to discussion. So now I'm going to make my comments that I think it is, Claire McKenzie had a very good summary of what the abatement process back in, I think it was December, in that, in terms of when we passed the -5%, when we did lower the levy, that we wanted to do a very deep dive into the budget and to get all of our figures and then abate, since now we know for sure that it doesn't need to be in until April 1st, right? And in fact, it wouldn't go anywhere until then anyways. So this, I believe, is premature. Not opposed to it, but I am opposed to abating 100% of the general assistance fund. I think that's killing a mountain with a molehill, and I think that's really a bad look. I think that's a terrible thing to say. And general assistance, we have come a long way in solving the problem. That problem, which was that the admin costs of administering a lower amount of cases has completely switched around. I think you'll all be pleasantly surprised when we present our budget and when we have our salary study, assuming that will be done. we're not anticipating increase. In fact, I know for a fact that in terms of personnel, we'll be saving $93,000. So right there, that's a pretty good chunk of change. Right now, that's what we're seeing. So, having said those things, and there is no need, in my opinion, at this time, to abate 100% of the general assistance fund. If that's the message you want to send to your residents, that the general assistance, the needy, and the food pantry, and those people, you know, and yes, they have reserves, but so does the town fund, and so does the road district. So, I'm actually not opposed to some abatement of the town fund at the February board meeting, or some abatement of the general assistance fund. I think this is premature. I think it's way too drastic, and I would ask Trustee Sweeney, of all the levies that you put forth, the one that you wanted to vote on was 30% for town fund and 15% for GA. So this looks very vindictive. It looks sort of like you didn't win that vote and it's a second go around, and that's not what I think the price. And I'm not saying that is, I'm just saying that's what it looks like or could look like to the viewer, because that's what struck me. I went back and looked at all the levies. That was your highest levy. So that vote failed because we had voted on the -5. I understand the intent behind this, which I'm in full agreement with. So what I don't understand is why it would go from, and maybe I have it reversed, maybe it was 15% town fund, 30% GA, but why it would go from 30% GA to 100% in 3 weeks literally makes no sense, and there's no basis for it. Nothing has changed except for the better. We've actually increased the caseload, taken it, so it's just premature in my opinion, and I think that for all those reasons, I would be totally against this particular abatement motion at this time. Trustee Carabao.
Let me interject that when December 27th, when we all got out of bed, started our day, and we we're going to go in and do decide what to levy against the taxpayers. At that time, bright and early in the morning, and it's still a fact now, the General Assistance Fund had more than 2.5 times reserves. And if you call it general assistance, you call it public aid, you call it anything you want, you know, money for people in need. If anyone knows, and anybody does charity work, it's me, understands the importance of charity work. The problem is that the GA fund is and since it's brought up now, which I didn't want to bring up additionally, is 2.5 times, more than 2.5 times the annual average expenditure of the previous 3 fiscal years. It's over. It violates the statute. When I got up in the morning on December 27th, it violated the statute. As I'm sitting here today in a different suit, it still violates the statute. But then you take a step back even before that. The law requires ethical administration of taxpayer funds, and that requires the first step. And the first step is if you can only levy for money that you need. We don't need the money for general assistance.
But that existed in December.
No matter how it's phrased. So not only do we not need the money when it comes to general assistance, even with the proposed levy cut that was asserted, further review of the account suggested that we really should not be levying at all for general assistance. They had plenty to get through for the next year. When it comes to town fund, when we got up in the morning, December 27th, bright and early in the morning, they had 1.7 years in savings at that very time before we even levied. Now, the suggestion was then given, and I thought it was a pretty good one that I was talked into, is to a degree, is that we can either cut the levy up front, and that's a permanent cut that goes on infinitum, okay, and then you address it the next year if you want to try to bring it up, or a temporary 1-year fix. The way you do the temporary 1-year fix, you levy for your amount, maybe cut 5%, something like that, but that's with the promise to the taxpayers to abate the monies that you don't need. You're going to send those monies back. That leaves the door open for the following year where there's no effect. You could levy the same as the year before, or you could go higher. It doesn't limit your levying ability. I was very concerned and I voted no to the 5% cut because I was always concerned that the government overall, governmental bodies overall, the 7,000 governmental bodies in Illinois, 1,400 of which are township governments, just don't have a great track record in saying, give us this now, we'll kick back to you later. Something always happens with that. But looking at the amount now, since we're in this situation, the abatement for general assistance, it may look bad that someone who's a member of the Knights of Columbus that does charity work all over is asking to abate back 100% of the general assistance funds that were levied on December 27, 2018. But the bottom line is I can't sit still and have those monies levied when not only is there plenty of money to get through 2019 in general assistance, but we're also then jumping into the next step 2, we're over the statutory amount subject to suit. So that's where the general assistance comes from. Yeah, can it be colored by the press as making you look like you're not sympathetic to the poor? Sure it can. But that's not my job. My job is not to be popular. My job is to do my job as an auditor, which is what a trustee is. And we go back to town fund having 1.7 years of savings when I got out of bed. We shouldn't be levying at all, but in order to appease certain concerns that were raised, that we said, okay, let's just see if we can rebate or abate back 30%. Then we also get to the account of road and bridge. Can't touch that because I don't have the legal authority as a trustee. The statute does not allow me the authority to touch road and bridge. Road and bridge went up on theirs, another $600,000 in levying, and I would again reach out to Walter to ask him to reconsider that position or consider the abatement. Thank you.
Okay,
Didn't you already speak?
yeah.
Oh, trustee Stein.
Oh. You had said that I was vindictive. I hadn't got a chance to reply.
No, I said it could be viewed
So-
that way because nothing, literally nothing has changed.
I want to make it clear to people that the levy is something separate from the budget. So what we were looking at and what we've been budgeting for is about $830,000 to $850,000 for a budget of the general assistance fund. This is not reflective of changing the budget. We are not talking about lowering the budget for general assistance in this discussion at all. So I take issue with you bringing that up and you know, making reference to what are you doing to these people that are in need. I do not want to take from people that are truly in need that we have to
But you don't
address.
even know
What I am
100% of GA will do.
What I am addressing is what our levy is and why I made the decision to do what I did back in December with a 30% cut so that we would be compliant with the township statute that requires that we do not spend we do not have in reserve over 2.5 times the average annual expenditures that we make have made for the last 3 years. We're out of compliance by about $300,000. We have $2.4 million in reserve. Our budget that we levied for was, not budget. Our levy was $827,000. We now have over $3 million if you look at that. We have 2.4 plus 827 that we're talking about that we have for the year. Why would we need $2.4 million in reserves? And what I had done some research on is what do other local governmental bodies have in reserve? 3 to 6 months for park district or library or the city hall.
You're really going to compare the township to the library?
Excuse me, I'm still speaking. When we did have the expert come and talk to us from the township officials of Illinois, he said a year's reserve was enough. So my proposal to abate is because we have 2.8 years of what we need right now. So if we abated a whole year's levy of this 827, we'd still have, 1.8. So why would we need more than, almost $2 million in the bank? This is money that's sitting there idly, that's surplus, that residents have complained to us and gotten us to speak to us about the fact that we are excessively taxing. And
I'm sorry,
I
what
think
is the taxes?
if you
What's the
look,
taxes for the township? What?
I'm going
I
to.
know, but I just was
So if we abate the whole levy, you know, we have more than enough money left. I also, in addition to requesting, you know, making the motion for this ordinance to address not just the general assistance, but the town fund, because we have 1.7 years worth of a levy. And I don't think we need that. I think it's excessive. So just to take a 30% off, we still, in both of these situations, what we would be doing is when we do our budget, which is coming up shortly, and we spend money, whatever we decided in our budget, we're just spending it out of the reserves so that we're slowly spending that down. And as David just described, an abatement does not do what a levy cut did. I did request a levy cut of 27% for the general assistance and a 30%. Now, because the levy cut the subsequent year, you correct me if I'm wrong, attorney, but the levy cut would then necessarily put us back the following year, next year, as we levy for the 2019 levy. What we would do is we'd have to start at that level and we'd be held to the PTEL where we couldn't increase more than 5%.
No, so we're going to employ a look-back provision next year that's
The
completely
abatement
different.
just looks at a 1 year and takes us, you know, reduces, and we spend our budget money then out of our levy, out of this surplus, out of this excess of $2.4 million for the general assistance budget, levy, excuse me. I think the attorney was saying something.
Well, I was just going to say, it's actually not, if we decrease our levy for our aggregate extension, it's not, we don't go back to last year's, we get to look back at the past 3 years and take the highest level from one of those if you decrease your levy. So that's what we would do, say, come 2019, since the levy's been reduced this year, we would look back to 2016, 2017, 2018, and we could levy off the highest amount from any of those 3 years.
And capture the new
that's what
properties.
the abatement option causes us to avoid.
No.
With the
It's
abatement
just
abatement
whatever
option.
you reduce.
We don't have to
We've
cut,
already
we don't have to cut
reduced.
the levy that far.
Dave, we've already
Correct.
reduced.
It's just whenever you reduce your levy,
Right.
then you get to employ the look-back provision over the past 3 years.
Right, yeah, right. But to reduce the levy 5% versus not to levy at all for GA and then abate that each year, that leaves our options open much better for levying the following year. Is that correct?
Not
The look back looks at a 5% cut, not at 100%.
No.
No, so that's, the 5% will come into play for truth in taxation, which is distinct from PTEL. So no matter what our levy is, if it's going to be over 105% of last year, so if it's 0, we're going to have a truth in taxation hearing, but that's not going to apply to PTEL. PTEL is really more about your limiting rate, which is going to be what your levy is, and then if you reduce it, then your base limiting rate is going to be whichever of the prior 3 years you get to choose. So truth in taxation can be triggered when PTEL's not. PTEL can be triggered when truth in taxation.
I think just as a quick, I think it was misunderstood.
Yeah.
Not talking about truth in taxation. Truth in taxation is that whenever you go to levy, if you want to go to levy more than 5% increase, then you got to go through truth in.
Yeah.
What I was talking about is that with our levy, we decided to cut 5% and not more. If we did cut more of the levy itself, that cut would then follow us into the next year, going back 3-year look back. Versus if you cut less and abate back.
The county will still calculate our aggregate extension from what the final extension is. So even if we do whatever we end up abating, whatever the final number is, that's what the county is going to use for our limited rate calculation in the next year. So even though we do abate, it's still going to, that abatement amount, whatever the final amount is going to be what they're going to calculate from. But as long as we're reducing, then we get to employ the look back provision. So you get to go to whichever of the highest 3 years. So if we reduce it 1 year, It's a provision, they put it in there so that you could reduce it 1 year and not have to have the, go back to referendum to get back up to where you were previously.
Right.
Yeah.
Because next year is when the new property taxes come on the rolls, and you want to capture the new property taxes. And had a long conversation and actually presented this with the clerk's office, and that's something that we'll address next year about capturing the new construction. That's when it comes in, because you're always a year behind. So as long as the levy is reduced, which it was, so it doesn't matter how much it's reduced. I mean, it can be reduced. The county doesn't care. They're going to employ, if we use the look-back provision, you're going to employ the highest in 3 years, which is 2016. The requirements are that you have reduced it. So it was reduced. 5% cut was a reduction. 100% cut's obviously a reduction. So any amount is a reduction. It has to be reduced. It couldn't be flat.
Right.
So we qualify.
What is the benefit of abating versus cutting the levy further?
It's the same thing. You're having a do-over.
What's the benefit?
So the benefit is that you have to get your levy ordinance in by the end of December. So if you're not sure how much you're going to need and you want to preserve that, then you levy in December, figure out if you're going to need to abate, and then you can abate up until for Cook County to need it by April 1st. So it's to preserve your amount to levy, and then you can decide if you're going to need all of that.
Any other comments? All right. I'm going to call the question. Clerk Giulianis, can you take the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
No.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee McKenzie?
No.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweeney?
Yes.
Okay, and we will revisit that in February, different numbers. And moving on to the next item is the salary study vendor, McGrath Consulting. So we had a conference call with Dr. Victoria McGrath. Everything is contained in this proposal, which is incredibly thorough. In my opinion, I also think Trustee McKenzie's opinion. And there are 6 steps to this methodology. I'm sure you've all read it. She is available by phone if anybody has any questions on this. Okay, so Park Ridge used this company, and Park Ridge had to go out to bid. We told her we couldn't. Like, we did not want to spend that kind of money. So in Park Ridge, and their budget obviously is much better. So in Park Ridge, the price, I believe, was $37,000. So when we discussed this and gave her all the factors, the amount of employees, and she would meet with the trustees, obviously only 2 at a time, and answer any questions. She starts out by coming in and meeting with all the department directors together and individually, and then she sends out a questionnaire to every employee. That is a very thorough 18-point questionnaire. And then after that, she develops a salary survey. She develops the salary survey and sends it to comparable. She does look at the private sector. So this was one of the good things. She does not just compare to other townships. In fact, she told us that the private sector was having raises in terms of 3.1% average, and that there is a labor shortage going on. And she also looks at benefits in the whole package. Then she has employee, so she looks at external market data, which can include your research, Susan, and will absolutely include private sector, and with respect to whatever the department is, So for certain departments, for example, mainstay, that would be something that would be far more valuable in looking at the private sector, because you have people with master's degrees doing therapy. Whereas, you know, somebody answering the phone may not be comparable. Well, I mean, you're still going to be comparable, but she said, you know, when we told her some of our lower salary, you know, we really do want to be able to attract, retain, and
What was the rest of your sentence, or you said when we told her some of our salaries, she had to read
the $10 an hour, she said that's, I mean, the minimum wage now, I mean, you could do more in burger. So, it would be very hard, and we have been experiencing that, for our front desk people. I mean, we have Tracy, who makes, you know, but the fill-in people, that are $10 an hour. But she also looks at all these, develops a grade, a salary grade range to put, like, for example, in the maintenance department. Are you guys talking to each other?
No,
Or do you
no,
want to hear?
I listen.
Okay. So she looks at various grades. We can develop grades. For example, in maintenance, it can be, you know, sanitary engineer 1 and sanitary engineer 2. So she evaluates a job on 15 different factors. All right. Then she makes a final site visit. She meets with the HR, which, you know, would actually be Dana and Denise and Vicki, and she runs 2 different reports. How to hire, how to move through the system, actually 3 different reports. And then she extracts that out to an executive summary. Also an Excel spreadsheet that gives you the total cost of implementing whatever her recommended entire salary schedule might be. And so the other good thing about it was that it's a flat fee. Just tell me whenever you're ready.
No, keep going.
You should. So, it's a flat fee between $12,000 and $14,000, depending on how many meetings she has with trustees and how many site visits. She would be, she's like one of the main partners, she would be doing this project herself. So, I was personally blown away that, you know, this same type of study cost Parkridge $37,000. And I think it will save us an extraordinary, because it's also management consulting and can help in GA with respect to where different job grades go and all over the building, actually, so that we are in line with the private sector and the public sector. So, I'm going to make a motion so that we can actually discuss this. I'm going to make a motion to hire Dr. Victoria McGrath, with the professional proposal prepared for Maine Township, and McGrath Consulting as delineated in your board packets. Do I have a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Do you guys have any questions? She is waiting by her phone if you do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I reviewed the report. I think the background of the company is phenomenal. It looks like they also not only look to Illinois, but they also have interactions in other states as well. So that was good, and also the previous work, the previous employment that they've had is great. What I was suggesting was a lot of what Supervisor Morass just said, I wasn't drawing completely out of the description of the scope of work. So that's actually in writing. So what I'm proposing is that we consider, if I can pass this down, just a short rider that would attach, if it's acceptable to the prepare this report, we're doing the salary study. The writer to the salary study would simply say that this salary study is to include, but not necessarily be limited to, comparison of the employees, parenthesis, of each of all township employees, part-time and full-time, and parenthesis, salary and all benefits, including quality and value of all benefits, including but not limited to, medical insurance plan benefits, life insurance benefits, retirement benefits, and so forth, to his/her non-governmental counterparts in both the corporate and non-corporate private sector and private business sectors / environment in Maine Township, Illinois, and in Illinois overall, and is to include taking into account the Census Bureau data and all compiled data in this regard available, as well as that which may from time to time be provided by any of the Maine Township Board members in any form or fashion, including articles, publications, other presented studies, including that of Illinois, Chicago, and local government, business, and financial news, including that generated by any other sources, with this study to analyze individual salaries and benefits against the economy, government, and business.
Well, I understand and appreciate the intention of this writer. I would respectfully have to say no, because the reason we want to hire an expert is because it's really what the expert wants to take into account, and she does take most of that. I don't think she does. I mean, I know she takes Illinois Department of Labor. I don't know about the Census Bureau data. But again, you are mandating her to look at things provided by board members. The benefit of having an independent expert who's never met anybody. Oh, also there's a section she'll be doing about salaries versus bonuses, because I know that was something you guys were interested in. But anyway, she's never met anybody. So that's the whole point. That's why.
The whole point in my discussion when I
is to have it be objective for her
and it was clear,
employees.
it was made clear that also there would be considered these articles and these publications. I brought up the issue of wire points as one.
Well, that's what
that these are things that that this person conducting the study would actually consider by as something if it's presented by a board member.
Welcome. Okay.
And it's also not. I didn't just vote for a study that.
Well, you voted no. So
what I'm saying is what I was looking for and what I wanted to see was that we're able to take these matters and issues into account.
You did vote yes.
Yes.
And I voted yes because we took out that limitation.
Right.
And it was also made clear by
just townships.
It was just townships that was taken out, but also we added, and Claire also detailed as well that we added that this additional information and data would be taken into account, including the private sector, including this data and information.
If the expert deemed it hard valuable, I mean, I don't have any problem.
I don't do an if then. That's not.
Well, I can't. I mean, that's my. I can't ask her to put a writer that she must take wire points into it.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, yes, you actually. That is what this writer said.
No, right. Show me where it says wire
It
points.
says provided by any of the township board members in any form or fashion. So, I mean, I agree, like, I hire experts all the time in my work, and they would not accept this. Because they need to be independent, and for us to say how they do their work, now you are directing their work, so that they're no longer independent. I think that she is very open, like we can call her right now. I think she's still available. And you can talk to her. You were invited to call her before and talk to her. And I think that you can still talk to her after, but
she's going to meet with you guys.
Yeah, but we want to keep the cost of this contained, and all of us giving her all of the publications and all the Census Bureau and telling her, this is what we want you to do. That's not going to keep the price contained. That has been my experience. Is you have to let them efficiently do their work. And of course, if you want to, call her and say, hey, are you going to look at the Census Bureau and get an answer? Great. But her using the Census Bureau or not should not make your decision, because she is who we are hiring and she is the expert.
It starts out, number one, with talking about what she's looking at, and number two makes it clear that she brings in the issue of the, I did not say that if the expert decides not to bring in the private sector to this, as I'm saying here, this is the language exactly that I used at the last meeting.
Okay, well, you're
And
welcome to
she
vote
should-
against it, or we can call her Trustee Jones.
Well, I think that the rider completely defeats the purpose of hiring an independent expert. I mean, you
Nobody.
and I, and nobody on this board is an expert in salary study, no matter what publications you may read or may not read, or what you want to include. That's why we're hiring an independent expert to do the study. And if you're dictating what they're doing, then you're, one, if they did it, I would lose respect for her. Because she's allowing the study to be,
Manipulative.
yeah, thank you.
It says included, but not limited to.
Excuse me,
There's no
I am
manipulation.
speaking. That is a manipulation. You're manipulating her study.
Okay.
And you're also polluting it. So, I mean, that defeats the purpose of hiring an expert for any study if you're going to dictate to them how they're supposed to do it and what publications they're going to use to do the study.
I mean, is that really your objection?
The object,
When
no,
you guys
I'm
are
not
gonna meet with her,
dictating.
you can
These
absolutely give her that
These
information.
are certain items that I want to see considered. I'm not
I can't mandate
dictating
that. Nobody would
what,
accept
I'm not dictating what this person is actually limited to doing. I said including, but not, that's not limited to. These are the things I want to make sure are looked at when they're going to go ahead and convey an opinion to us, for me to give any weight to that opinion.
No. Trustee
You
Sweeney.
had said something, and I wasn't clear what you meant, Supervisor, about she's not mandated to talk to trustees.
No, she is going to be trying.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a second part to that that I was missing.
No, in fact, she is planning to meet with all of them.
Okay.
I mean, but to not
But I think you
violate
said
open
about
meeting.
this stuff, like about this, his rider. And I think,
No, not about the rider. I mean, how would I know about the rider? We
No,
had
after-
a week and a
now,
half.
after he read this, you made the comment like,
Oh,
know,
when you meet
that
with
she
her, you
can't-
can absolutely give
Okay,
her
let me
whatever
make my point.
information you want.
okay, we are the elected officials. We are elected to
Yeah, but you're
represent
not an
people.
expert.
I am not an expert on
Right.
salary studies. What I do know is the research that I did myself.
Right, we don't want to.
Okay, that I want
Respectfully,
to be-
Susan, we can't hear you.
No, please allow me to finish my sentence. I haven't even made my point. My point is that I think that there are some things that should be factored in.
Well, I
Why?
understand you
Because
said
she
that
wasn't
the last
elected, I am. And I think people want to see some comparisons. As he pointed out to the private sector, as he
She
pointed
is
out, comparisons that should be considered or included, that being the fact that
I'm gonna
our
call the
Maine
question.
Township,
I know,
I'm not
she's-
finished. Our Maine Township salaries have increased faster than the people that are actually paying our salaries. And I think that's a really important consideration. So I don't know why we would be precluded from sharing that with her. We're not going to be, right? Trustee McKenzie had said, I mean, you agree, we can give the input, we're providing that to her. That's what we're doing.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the question. Clerk Chalamas, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
I think he made an
So the
amendment that I
question-
seconded. We need to vote on it first,
No.
accepting the.
I don't know what we're.
Accepting.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not, you made it, I didn't hear a formal amendment to my motion.
Okay, well, I made an amendment. to
Well, I'm
motion.
calling the question on my motion to hire the expert. Joe.
Are you gonna not allow for an amendment? We can. vote
Okay,
on
we'll
it.
call the roll on the amendment first. All right, so call the roll on the amendment.
Thank you.
Supervisor Moran?
No.
Trustee Jones?
No.
Trustee McKenzie?
No.
Trustee Carabota?
Yes.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm gonna call the question on motion to hire Dr. McGrath at the salary of, or I'm sorry, the price of $13,876. And the other good part, payment is made in 3 installments, $4,000 upon signing, $5,876 upon submission of the draft report, and the balance of $4,000 upon submission of the final report. That is my motion, and same second.
Second, yes.
Having a motion and a second, can you call the roll?
Supervisor Moran?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee McKenzie?
Yes.
Trustee Carabota?
No.
Trustee Sweet?
Yes.
All right, so, motion passed. Now, personnel, we have none. officials reports. I'm waiving my official report except for one thing. We need to pick some dates of special board meetings for our evaluation purposes. But I think you guys can email me some choices, you know, like we did last year is of our evaluations, right? So I assume you'd like to, we should do the same procedure. So I need two.
I think that's an assumption, and I think we should have a vote on how we actually conduct that. Because
you know what's
feel like we don't need that. If we decided bonuses, I mean, I think we're micromanaging by getting into that level of individually.
That was for you guys.
I don't think that should be our responsibility as trustees.
Great. I have no problem. So, great, we don't need any special meetings. So we will take care of all evaluations. And those will be submitted.
Vote on it.
And we're not voting on anything. We're not voting on anything. I was asking you to pick a date.
Well, it's kind of.
There was no motion.
I know there was no motion.
Since there's nothing on the agenda on this, I would say don't take, I would recommend against any votes.
Right, this was exactly, we're not
Right,
voting.
you can't.
I literally said to, like, consider some dates, as we did last year, because they wanted to participate in this process last year. They don't. Not a problem.
Well, wait a second. We're gonna have,
And we're gonna have the salary study. So, trustee McKenzie.
so what's the timing again?
So if you recall, I believe that we will have a draft report in March with a final report in April.
And when is our salary study gonna be?
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
That's what I'm talking about. And that will address bonuses versus raises.
But when do the bonuses when are the evaluations done and when do?
Okay, so we have accelerated the cycle. I've made everybody is going to have the evaluations are due.
Another week or two.
Right, and then I'm almost complete with all of our budget meetings. So we anticipate having a draft preliminary budget sometime middle of February.
But don't we, I mean, I want to see the salary study.
Me too.
Right.
Right.
So shouldn't we have a special board meeting after we get the salary study report?
Well, I thought we should have one after we get the draft and after she's met with everybody. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
To yourselves, look at some dates and get picked.
Okay,
That makes
so
sense.
look for dates.
Yeah.
Late February, early mid-March.
Mid-March.
Yeah, I mean,
Does you want to just figure it out now, or is it, you want to just figure it right now?
let's do it.
So send you by email?
Like, I'll toss out some dates and then,
Oh, okay.
how's that? So we're not voting on anything. Yeah, I really thought, thank you, Claire, for articulating what I meant.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, all right. Now, so that's my report. In addition to just really that Jewel was such a phenomenal partner. I can't thank them enough for what they did for us. I have no other report.
Trustee, before we get into reports, can I just ask, I think we have some numbers that just did not dive on the actual town fund spreadsheet.
Susan.
So I don't know, just, I'm making a new, whatever, just comment that we need to fix that. Okay?
That was like 2 hours ago.
You mean the town fund that I'm literally signing right now?
What are you talking about?
No, the
I'm talking
budget.
about the spreadsheet.
The expense spreadsheet.
Yeah, we don't have a budget of 5 million in the town fund. It's, our amended budget is 4,590,000.
I mean, that's a bit of math there on my part. You want to email me with the...
That's
Yes, we
fine.
never covered that, right?
Okay, no, that literally,
No.
we put
No,
it
you never covered
there.
Yeah, and it's also on page 8, it's incorrect too, because there's no amended budget. It doesn't match the
That might be the
original
trailer.
amended for the town fund. So maybe you just want to double check.
That might be
Yeah,
the trailer. Are you sure you're not
I
looking
didn't
at
do
the
that, I didn't
trailer?
do the trailer.
Oh.
No, that, I could have looked at this question right now.
Just sign.
I mean, which affects you know, the percentage left that we have for the year and the percentage of the year.
No, it's something that probably.
When I look over this, and so I would assume that every number within it's probably.
It's probably just a formula, there I corrected literally that.
Okay, could you resend and then post
Yeah, what-
in the board packets the correct numbers for
Absolutely.
these?
Yeah,
Because these are, okay,
Yeah,
everything's public too, so.
Yeah, I could fix it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are all of them wrong, or
Well,
just
that's what I'm saying, if the bottom line is wrong, then maybe all the individual numbers are wrong. So,
All right, which one here?
that's the revenue, that's the budget, that's the real budget. Amended budget, 4,500,000, that's goes to
is the expense okay?
And then, general assistance fund, too. Our amended budget is 830,000, now 824,000. Our original budget is 824. Our amended is 830. Oh, yeah, but I think it's going to be affected probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to move to raise that one.
Yeah, that's fine.
Susie, did you check the expense numbers too?
I didn't go through all that.
Dana, can you also make sure the expense numbers are correct? On these sheets, I assume they were correct.
Yeah, all those are.
And can you just email all of us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll double check.
All right. Do I have everybody's agreement to waive their official reports?
Yes.
All right, awesome. Administrator, you will waive your report?
Yes.
Attorney, you will waive your report?
Yes.
Well, you weren't even on here, I apologize. We have no closed session. Would someone like to make a motion for adjournment?
Motion for adjournment.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?